Regulation changes, 2 less teams than last season, and half of the FF1M grid being a champion of some sort, 2009 promises to be an absolute cracker of a season. Bahrain will return to the calendar this season after announcing a race sharing deal with the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Another race sharing deal was announced by Spain this season. Round 5 will take place at Jerez, scene of the 1997 championship decider between Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve. We will also have a brand new race in America taking place at the Infineon Raceway in California. That will be the 16th round of the championship. Changes in the pre-season testing schedule has meant that each team is now only allowed to bring 1 driver per test. Therefore, the testing picture has been somewhat irrelevant. However, one team in particular has impressed me most, Andy Racing. They came on strong at the second half of last season, and pre-season shows that they have improved even more, Adrian Sutil topping some of the tests. Now it's time for the team predictions. Being a new team in FF1M was never a luxury due to the lack of resources when you first start, and this was definitely the case with Autodynamics. With all FF1M cars experiencing a makeover in terms of car design, Autodynamics have opted for the blown diffuser, which will take longer to develop. However, unlike the double deck diffuser, it will not be banned at the end of 2009, so Autodynamics are thinking in the long term. Their 2 drivers are Vitantonio Liuzzi and fellow Australian Mark Webber. The second of the new teams that entered last season, GRM, also had a similar struggle to Autodynamics. This season they should fare better than the Australian team with massive experienced drivers such as Rubens Barrichello and Sebastian Bourdais. They have opted for the double deck diffuser, which should give them an advantage in the first part of the season. Despite the departures of SF1 Racing and X-Elite, being a relatively new team, they may still struggle to make it into races. With the AFIA's desire to have only 11 teams in FF1M, AJ have graciously announced their retirement at the end of this season, and they hope to go out with a bang with 2 race-winning drivers on board in the shape of Fernando Alonso and Christian Klein. Hopefully for their sake, their definition of going out with a bang won't apply to their turbo engines. Like GRM, they have opted for the double deck diffuser, which should help their early cause for entering races. Despite some strong performances in qualifying last season, Mitchell are still struggling to make it into the midfield again. They have stuck with their 2 drivers, Sebastian Buemi and Jarno Trulli. With the rise in engine prices, they are somewhat fortunate to obtain the BMW engine as it was out of their pocket. However, they have received special dispensation from the AFIA boss. The engine itself is still not brilliant, however it does supply more than one team, so development shouldn't be too restricted. In terms of aerodynamics, they are thinking in the long term, having chosen blown diffuser. They have been in FF1M since the beginning, Sadly, Dodgem have announced that this season will be their last. Like the AJ team, they are hoping to go out with a bang, and they have Giorgio Pantano and the experienced Nick Heidfeld to aid their cause. Whilst their Toyota engine is a good engine, unfortunately for them, they are the only team that are supplied by this engine, which could restrict their development. They have attempted to combat this by choosing the double-deck diffuser, which should give them an early advantage compared to some teams that have chosen the blown diffuser. They started out last season as the championship favourites, however they just could not get the tyres to work, which hindered Sebastian Vettel's championship defence. That and poor reliability meant that they couldn't mount a championship attack. They are another team that are thinking in the long term, having signed two rookies in Kamui Kobayashi and Adrian Zaug on a 2-season deal. However, they have chosen the double-deck diffuser, which should aid their cause in the beginning of the season. However, their inexperience may hinder consistency. 2008 could only have been described as a massive disappointment for Dark Wolf, failing to retain both championships and slipping 7 places, down to 8th. They even dumped their driver Mark Webber halfway through the season in favour of former world champion Nico Rosberg, who will remain with the team for this season alongside Marc Genet. He now enters his 8th season in a row for Dark Wolf, which equals Jean Alesi's and FJR's record. However, he will be retiring at the end of this season, spoiling the chance of beating the record. It will be extremely difficult for this team to return to the front, and they have chosen the blown diffuser, so they are thinking in the long term. This season could be Andy Racing's breakthrough. Nelson Piquet Jr. and Adrian Sutil are two drivers that are improving massively, Adrian Sutil in particular having shown strong pace during pre-season testing. They have gone for the blown diffuser, which may prove to be a disadvantage in the first half of the season. However, expect this team to be regular point scorers throughout this season. If things do go their own way, they could score their first win since the Japanese Grand Prix of 2002, when they had Michael Schumacher at the wheel. "2008 could have been considered as a development season for Schakenberg, having switched to their own power plant. They are sticking with it this season, which should help Lewis Hamilton as he came on strong during the second half of last season, winning the Japanese Grand Prix by a huge margin. Second drivers have always tended to be a problem for Schakenberg. They have replaced Neil Yarner in favour of ex-Dodgem driver Timo Glock, who did show some strong drives during the last season. Schakenberg will be hoping to challenge for early race wins, having gone for the double-deck diffuser. Continuity is the name of Shannon's game, sticking with Bruno Senna, Pastor Maldonado and the Renault engine. In terms of one-lap pace, this team were ridiculously fast, often being at least 0.7 of a second quicker than any other car. Converting qualifying pace into race wins was the team's Achilles heel, having to wait until round 11 for their first win of the season. Even then, they were aided by the retirement of Christian Klein late in the race. They will be eager to revisit the top step of the podium, but consistency should be their aim, having gone for the blown diffuser. 2008 was a bit of a bizarre season for FJR, some races being the car to beat, and in others, struggling to make it off the back row. They were one of the first teams to research KERS, and they have focused their pre-season efforts on developing it so it's as reliable as possible. One of the FJR's strengths is straight line speed, and the addition of KERS will no doubt play into their hands. Returning to the world of FF1M is Felipe Massa, who spent last season driving for FJR's sister team, STV Racing, winning the FF2M championship along the way. Teaming up with the Brazilian is one of the most electrifying drivers on the grid, Robert Kubica. Ski Racing had a remarkable season last time out. Their qualifying pace wasn't good, but they more than made up for that with some superb race pace. To the surprise of many, it was Klein that provided the championship attack, not Robert Kubica. It was a valiant championship attack from the Austrian, but a series of unfortunate races ended his charge, and he had to settle for second. They have signed Sebastian Vettel and Lucas Di Grassi, which should be an extremely strong lineup. However, their blown diffuser may hinder the championship attack early on. Tornado should have a much stronger championship defence than Dark Wolf's and FJR's previous efforts in the past seasons. They have stuck with Jenson Button, who was strong throughout last season, and they have also signed Kimi Raikkonen, who is a strong driver but struggled with the Pedersen due to the tyres. Tornado's championship defence will all be dependent on how well their first half goes, having gone with the double deck diffuser. I'm not expecting Tornado to be quite as dominant, but I'm still expecting them to be the championship favourites.